welcome back. This is the ultimate session of Innovative INOS, bringing open knowledge and innovation to higher education. We wanted to conclude the conference by taking a step back on the INOS project. I would say by taking perspectives from other projects, which includes actually some INOS partners. As we said before, the INOS partners is coming to its end, and we are now at the point that you can see at the previous presentation, we are asking ourselves a lot of questions on the impacts of the project, especially social impacts, because we're talking about citizen science, and how can all this material, I mean the material with builds actually like the best practices, the models, also the reflection and all the reaction be transferred sustainably. We've answered this question partially with the implementation of concrete tools. We've mentioned the learning design framework, for instance. All the deliverables you discovered, like the roadmap, the guide of best practices on open knowledge activities or open innovation activities, to disseminate now through our institutions and through conferences and this kind of conferences. But we also know that the implementation implies certain modes of organization, new spaces, as we talk about yesterday with Professor Skuma, which need to be perpetuated and consolidated. And it's more on this question that we ask our key speaker to take the floor at the end of the roundtable. So during the poster session and through several talks, we have seen all the partners organize the sustainability condition of these projects differently. The questions arises systematically of the integration of these practices in establishments through strategic orientation, through educational models, through civic engagement as well, and communities, through social innovations, and sometimes through new structuring projects, mainly European ones, as you will discover. So the various partners of the consortium are now involved in new European projects, you'll discover later. We have decided today to give the floor to other partners, universities, university libraries, representing these projects to find out how they anticipate the societal impact of these projects internally and externally. All have the common point of being at the beginning of their work. Actually, most of them have just started in January of this year. So this look at the continuity impact of the project that we ask them to present through this one fundamental question. So the fundamental question is how to structure open and citizen science in our institutions, and we will ask their visions of their projects and the objectives they want to reach in order to innovate within their institutional networks. So to animate this roundtable, I've asked one of my colleagues, Raphaël Batz, who is co-director of the Youthfist in Bordeaux and a researcher as well at the Centre Émile Durkheim, who knows by her position how to think of sustainable impacts, to moderate and animate this discussion. And she will present the different speakers later. So, Raphaël, I give you the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much. So I will just make a very short introduction, and then I will launch the discussion between the different lecturers. So today we will also discuss about citizen science through the presentation of these different projects. And the notion of citizen science covers several realities, which are sometimes associated with other terms such as open science, participatory science, community science, etc. So citizen science is in this moment receiving a lot of attention from university. So for example, in France, since last year, the Ministry of Higher Education has been accrediting universities that have ambitious and structural projects in terms of relation between science and society. And that puts into action around this theme, not only internal services, training and teaching, research, but also cooperation with partners from the city and civil society. So the University of Bordeaux has just been accredited with its Sunset project, and the multiplication of interest in citizen science invites greater discussion between universities to share methods, processes, successes, and the ENLIGHT project, with which David Hoyos will talk about, aims precisely at this sharing and exchange between between committed universities. So citizen science aims also many objectives. According to UNESCO, citizen science is contributing to democratization of knowledge, fighting misinformation and disinformation, addressing existing systemic inequalities and inclusion of wealth, knowledge, and power. And it's also guiding scientific work towards solving problems of social importance. And participation in science can concern different types of audience, different modalities and level of involvement, different skills, and can occur at different points in the scientific process. The participation of inhabitants is not only linked to the collection of data, but it can also be the participation in the construction of the problems, which will be the object of a scientific study. This question of the co-construction of programs will be addressed by Alexandra Angelitaki about the Echoing project. As a pillar of open science, citizen science calls for knowledge and skills related to the condition of dissemination of scientific communication and of research data, as well as to collaborative and cooperative work. Our Liisi Lembinen's presentation will be an opportunity to approach this question of open science and citizen science through the skills that are the heart of the LibOCS project. And finally, citizen science projects should not be a response of university to an ephemeral concern, but it should be part of a long-term process integrated into profound changes in the functioning of the university and in academic recognition and evaluation. A work thus to be carried out between the capacity to innovate and the commitment to the sustainability of actions, relationships, and tools. So the issue of sustainability has long been part of the practices of some university staff, and especially librarians. The COC project, SE project, which will be presented by Giannis Tsakonas, will be an opportunity to show the importance of the recognition of these skills for general adaptation of the university to the implementation of citizen science in an ethical and sustainable approach. So, to discuss all of this, and I hope this, summary of the meeting is talking to you. So the first lecture of this roundtable is about the project I talk about, entitled ENLIGHT, that shows how to use the benefits of networking between universities to address the issues of strengthening civil society engagement tools and mentoring. So I'm pleased to invite David Hoyos to take the mic. And just to present him before, David Hoyos is PhD in environmental economics, director of EUQ, Vice-Rectorate of Scientific and Social Development and Transfer, and assistant professor at the Department of Quantitative Methods, Faculty of Economic and Business at the University of the Basque Country. So please, David, we are listening to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You can hear me, right? Okay, so I should share my presentation, I guess. Okay. Okay, so I guess, is it okay? Can you see my presentation? Yes, okay. So thank you very much for inviting me for this session. And let me start by apologizing because I'm actually even though the ENLIGHT Rise project is new, I'm also new in this alliance. So it started, as you commented before, quite a few months ago in September, but still I think we can share some views and some ideas that we have for this project in the near future. So let me start by showing how ENLIGHT is a European university network to promote equitable quality of life, sustainability, and global engagement through higher education transformation. It is formed by 9 partners, namely the University of Bordeaux in France, Ghent University in Belgium, Comenius University Bratislava in Slovakia, our university, University of the Basque Country in Spain, National University of Ireland in Galway, University of Göttingen in Germany, University of Groningen in Netherlands, University of Tartu in Estonia, and finally the Uppsala University in Sweden. So ENLIGHT, as a beginning in a project, strives to transform the way in which we address global societal changes by developing new models and methodologies for education and research, adapted to the complex sustainability issues that facing cities and communities today. So as you can see below, ENLIGHT focuses on 5 black sheep challenges, namely health and well-being, climate change, energy and circular economy, digital revolution, and equity. Building on former collaboration and alliances, it started in 2020 with an Erasmus Plus grant and expanded its activities through the ENLIGHT Rise project, which received funding from Horizon 2020's Science with and for Society program, starting, as I said before, last September 2022. So in this new, as I said, but following the previous ENLIGHT project, the ENLIGHT Rise, which stands for Research and Innovation Agenda with and for Society, the ENLIGHT European University Alliance seeks to develop common research and innovation strategies, capitalize on its partner synergies to deliver on Europe's greatest societal changes, facilitate the sharing of capacity through new levels of collaboration, increase our ability to attract and retain talent, cooperate with our surrounding research and innovation ecosystems, and finally, engage citizens in our scientific endeavors. So the ambition of the ENLIGHT Rise Alliance is to become more competitive and innovative together, leveraging and synergies in our respective strengths and capitalizing on our innovation potential and partnership with our surrounding ecosystems to jointly promote a greener, healthier, more equitable and sustainable Europe. So to reach these goals, ENLIGHT Rise will first establish a longer-term business model for joint research and innovation actions. Secondly, identify strong research synergies with high innovation potential. Thirdly, enable the sharing of and optimizing capacity of digital research infrastructures while benchmarking and optimizing the societal impact of digital innovation and artificial intelligence. Fourthly, to reinforce cooperation and co-creation with business sector and civil society. Fifthly, mainstream and incentivize open science practices and public engagement. Number 6, to improve the attractiveness of researchers' careers. And finally, the 7th goal would be to develop and formalize methods towards an impact-driven research and innovation agenda. So in order to comply with these objectives, one of the main objectives of the ENLIGHT Rise Alliance is to reinforce cooperation and co-creation with civil society and foster genuine engagement of civil society sectors. In the working package we are working on, in working package 6, we aim to foster genuine engagement of civil society actors, meaning citizens, civil society organizations, communities, municipalities, non-profit NGOs, or the third sector in general, into the ENLIGHT research and innovation activities, from setting research agendas to executing the research, analyzing and interpreting findings, and discussing follow-up and creating impact. Thus, this way, co-creating knowledge, as well as including students in its collaborations. So in this package, we ultimately aim to jointly step up in this ladder of science communication, public engagement and public participation in science, from currently that is mainly unidirectional science communication to, as you can see in this in this picture, going up, stepping up in this ladder up to what is known as citizen science, community-based research, science shops, and living labs. So to finish this work we have ahead, what we aim in this working package is to achieve, to set up a mentoring program within the LIGHT Alliance for mobilization and mutual learning and collaboration in something genuine engagement of civil society in research and innovation. In order to do this, we have already first surveyed the existing civil society engagement tools and projects in research, innovation, teaching and learning. This task has already been completed in the last few months, so we have a first picture of what the different partners, the different universities are actually currently doing. Let me mention also that we are sharing all the information, and actually this database of activities is still working on. It's working on process, so we are expecting more activities to be included. But the work ahead includes, as a second task to set up a mentoring program for mobilization and mutual learning for genuine engagement of civil society in research and innovation projects. Thirdly, the mobilization and mutual learning through mentoring will include different activities like mutual site visits, presentations to various target groups, stakeholders, training sessions, webinars, execution of pilot projects by partners, mutual support activities, survey or focus groups with stakeholders for evaluation and learning, and publications, presentation, workshops related for dissemination. Finally, this should lead to local action plans to institutionalize activities within the ENLIGHT partners. So we expect our universities to work in a plan for civil society, for research engagement, and to set up connections for conducting research on the same topics in parallel or jointly, to learn and compare and to exchange approaches and findings. So this ties in with ENLIGHT plans to connect the students to jointly work on problems defined by civil society in transdisciplinary settings, but widens it to joint research and innovation activities. We will also establish an action plan to sustain ENLIGHT joint engagement activities with civil society in research and innovation by initiating collaboration in larger projects, for example, larger citizen science projects, by identifying and applying for joint finding and so on. But this will be in the next few years. So, this is more or less what we are actually doing in this ENLIGHT RISE. Thank you very much. And if you have any question or clarification, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, David. So we are going to take 2 or 3 questions maybe from the audience. So please let us know if you have some questions. I will let you some a bit of time to give us your questions, or I have some. Or maybe in waiting that colleagues has questions. Could you tell us more about the first picture you have now after the survey? So for the first step of the research. And could you tell us if you have an idea of where are the projects situated on the ladder of the dissemination of the scientific communication? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, as you could imagine, we have identified most of our activities are well at the bottom of the ladder. So mainly, but this is probably something that it's well, very much connected to our research activities at the university. In our research and teaching background, we were mainly focused on researching, mainly on papers, and only in the last few years we have started to acknowledge the importance of disseminating these results. So, but still this is part of mainly one-directional communication. So it's at the beginning, as I was showing in the ladder, as part of expert talks on different topics, but still we have a lot of work to do in involving civil society, in acknowledging also our well, the importance that society can have in our research, and how can we collaborate into better research, better probably guided into what civil or societal problems stand. And maybe because this is also important in the definition of the problems, in the definition of the research that we want to do. So basically, what we have found is that we are starting this way, and we hope that although we have collected activities that different universities are doing, and some universities are obviously in a better situation, but we didn't want, and this is also important to mention, we want to collaborate. We didn't want this collecting of information becoming a competition between universities who is doing better in this ladder. This is not the purpose. We want to put everything on together. We want to collaborate and and share and making all universities stepping up this ladder.
Oh, thank you. That's very clear. No question in the chat for now. We will have another moment to ask some other question. Okay, so thank you again, David, and we will now listen to Alexandra Angelitaki, who is a senior research librarian at NTNU University Library, which is in Norway. Classical archaeologist by training, she's now working in the field of cultural heritage, digital collection management, and digital heritage. Her research interests are collaborative learning through game technologies and the integration of digital technologies in archive and museum dissemination strategies. And she's also a member of Europeana member board, ENA. So Alexandra is about the project Echoing, an Erasmus Plus project that is addressing the issue of collaboration between university and cultural heritage organization through the open innovation education. So please, Alexandra, the mic is to you.
Thank you very much, Rachel and Helene. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm sorry I couldn't participate in the meeting today, but I heard Professor Giannis, and that was really inspiring yesterday. Thank you for that. And thanks, Katerina Zuru, who is a partner at INOS that invited me. She's also a partner at our project, which is called Echoing. And the project is about creating recovery plans for small and medium-sized cultural heritage organizations through open innovation. So citizen science is a part of it. It's not just about citizen science. We also use open innovation in a more kind of broad sense. So I'm trying to, so we, can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes, yes.
So the project started in January, but unfortunately, because of COVID, we couldn't really meet all together. And we managed to do that in March, when we finally met in Trondheim and we had our first physical meeting. And that was really great because Professor Juga yesterday talked about creating this safe space of collaboration where people can engage. And that's exactly what happened when we met after being met digitally, all of us. It was like a band of musicians that has been rehearsing through musical notes for 2 months and finally meet, and they will fine-tune the concert. So it was really a very nice experience in these times of COVID that we live in. So echoing is about it's about co-designing solutions for real life problems, and all our universities, we are 5 different countries, as you see here. We have Norway. NTNU is the University of Sciences and Technology, which does not have humanities in its title, but humanities and social sciences are a very important part of it. And I have been working a long time with type of citizen science projects through dissemination projects that we have created at our library. The university library that I work at in Trondheim is one of the oldest institutions of Trondheim, established in 1768. The rest of the universities bring a lot of expertise. Sant'Anna from Pisa is a VR technology university. Web to Learn from Thessaloniki, as you know, is a small enterprise that works with educational digital programs. Sofia University brings in open innovation at the GLAM sector. Tartu University has a lot of educational experience on crafts. And we also have with us something we are very proud of. We have 10 unions of women organizations from the Cyclades through their Cycladic Federation, which is called OCG. So what we're looking at in the project of echoing is how can we create a meaningful dialogue for capacity building between small cultural organizations that strive to survive after COVID-19 and the pandemic has hit society, and also middle-sized organizations that have had some recovery plans, but are not really able to collaborate with universities. So the universities that we're gonna work together look into open innovation as a transformative approach to academia society collaborations in order to create more inclusive societies and work on the digital transformation that goes both ways. So the objective in this project is twofold. One is to develop capacity building through this dialogue, this meaningful dialogue between the cultural heritage organizations and the universities, but also to try to serve society, as the majority of open innovation initiatives have a social value. So the target groups that we include in echoing projects are higher education staff, cultural education staff or volunteers, organizations and other business partners, but also students at the master's level. They are the main partners for this project. We are happy to have with us 29 associated partners, small and bigger museums for all the 5 different countries that have joined us. A representative of these partners are also members of our advisory board, so that we manage to have this open dialogue, open channel dialogue, so that They can be our reviewers, but also our informants, but also at the same level as well, our partners. And to be able to facilitate this meaningful dialogue, we have decided that these kind of project designing approaches to open innovation, together with interdisciplinary project work that I have done many years through a master's degree program that we have at our university called Experts in Team. We're going to use this as the toolbox, and we're going to create groups that come from both the cultural heritage organizations, but also universities, the students at master's levels, and they're going to work together to develop these open innovation projects, but trying to tailor them to real life problems. That means it's not going to be theoretical. It's not going to be based just on research and science, but it's going to be based on the needs, the particular needs that the different cultural organizations that participating have. So to be able to facilitate this dialogue, we are in that phase now where we try to create a common terminology ground, because that has been difficult. With different backgrounds, all of us, we identify the different terminologies as it is in science or interdisciplinary collaboration. All of that is defined differently in different research work. So we need to establish a common terminology ground. We also need to establish these common goals and values together with our associated partners. We have to listen to them. And we have to enrich our subject perspectives by creating these projects which will allow the two ways communication between universities and cultural heritage organizations, and of course, elaborate our communication strategies with our end users, which is also very important. So the particular deliverables that we have, you see them here. We start with the research, desktop research and survey to collect the best practices. We are in that phase now. Then we're going to create an online course of open innovation for the benefit of cultural organizations, where both the students and the representatives of the cultural heritage organization will participate, in order to be able to produce the action plans and the methodology that we can share with these cultural organizations. Right now, we are towards the end of our first package, which will create a report at the end of this month. And it will also be translated in all the languages of our partners. That means 5 different languages. And then we're going to move, we're going to move further to the PR2, which is actually the online modules that we're going to produce for both. Now, something happened and my screen is has been paused here. I don't know why. Something happened, but it was just a couple of more slides in there. But let me come to the final point. We have started already to meet a lot of obstacles to the fact that we do not talk the same language. So when we delivered this first survey, we had a lot of questions from the cultural heritage organizations, because the level is really very different. We start with organizations that maybe do not even have the basic infrastructure or digital skills that we invite them to understand all of that. But on the other side, we have museums that have had a lot of this kind of experience and have a lot to share. So that's one of the challenges we meet. But as I said, we are in the very beginning, and I'm really looking forward for the debate around the table here today. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Alexandra. So say maybe there is some questions from the audience. Please do not hesitate to write it on the chat, on the discussion, or maybe in waiting for I have some questions. So I will begin. About the THO partners, how do you find them? Or did you have already contact with them, already work with them, or maybe some of them contact you? How do you have
That's a very good question. We have actually, all of us, used our network that we have established from before. And so these are people that we have brought into the project, that we have established already a collaboration with beforehand. We've been working. We also have a communication. I myself have been working with a lot of these museums, bringing them in as stakeholders to my course, the experts in team, to present to the students. So, but the idea of the whole project, as we started it in the beginning, was that what about all these apps and projects and digital collaboration projects that are produced that are never used because the museums do not actually have the digital skills to run them. So you invite an IT student or an IT organization, they create something for you, they deliver it, you run it maybe a couple of months, and then a technical problem appears and there's nothing you can do because you do not have the skills to solve the problem and not the money. So, and I think that's a problem that everyone faces. So by inviting them into the project and letting them know what exactly is that they need of these kind of skills, we're going to try and solve these problems together.
So thank you. And when you are speaking about real life problem, you mean real life problem from the society, of the society, or specifically the kind of example you give? So real life problem of the THO trying to do open innovation.
Yes, exactly. Because as I said, there's so many differences, and that's one of the challenges we have, because we have 29 associated partners and they have all their different needs. So we're going to create some idea templates that will fit into the different needs so that we can actually work together with the actual idea, implement it and evaluate it together at the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think there is no other question, so maybe at the end there will be more. So thank you again, Alexandra. So the third lecture of this roundtable is about a project entitled LibOCS that focuses on barriers and enablers of open science in academic libraries in Baltic states. So I'm pleased to invite Liisi Lembinen, who has been a development director of the University of Tartu Library since 2009. Between 2013 and June 2016, she worked as an acting director of UT Library. She's leading the open science team in the library. She's also a member of various working groups as in Hoyos Nordic, ENLIGHT Rise, DataCite, and LibOCS. So please, Liisi, we are listening to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me and giving this chance to introduce our project that, as already mentioned before, we're all starting here right now. So just a few months of experience. So our project is focusing on Baltic states. So there are 3 Baltic states, plus we have partners from other countries too. And see, now this thing doesn't work. Okay. So as mentioned, the project started in January. So we have 4 months of experience now with this project, and we are almost done actually with our first work package or the task that we have set up. which I will in a couple of slides introduce you later. So we have 7 partners in total. Besides our library from Estonia, there is also TALTE. From Latvia, there's University of Latvia. From Lithuania, Kaunas Technological University, and Vytautas Magnus University. And then we have 2 partners, Web2Learn from Greece and Immerpesser from Germany. Plus, we have associated partners as public libraries from all the Baltic countries that we are connecting closely. And one of the reasons there is that we do have a feeling that the public libraries may have more experience in involving citizens than maybe academic libraries, because we are mainly focusing on our researchers and students within the university. And here's a website too, so if you have a chance, please take a look at the website too. So why the Baltic state academic libraries need these projects? All the libraries that I mentioned, but also other academic libraries in Baltic states, we have been heavily involved in various aspects of open science. Either open access, we started with open access here, for instance, already in 2009. So it's been more than 10 years of experience being involved in different levels. Now we are heavily involved in the data management and in general the promotion of the idea of the open science. But the problem that we have is the citizen science part of the open science, since citizen science is also considered as one of the pillars of the open science. And this is something, or the area, that we are lacking, and we are really at the beginning phase of developing how academic libraries can be involved in that one. Plus connecting the general idea of the open science to the citizen science and what's the role of the library in there. So the main reason is there that we are right now in the stage of lack of knowledge, but we are hoping by the end of this project we have way more knowledge and experience on how to be more successful in this area. So as I mentioned before, we already have done one of our first tasks, which was also like a little bit of a desktop task, meaning that we are searching what is out there, and INOS is one of the projects that we are learning from, and then looking at your results and what you found out, because you're almost ending your project now. But one of the things that we did in our first package was to have roundtables. So we had 3 different roundtables with 3 types of stakeholders. We had librarians, we had students, university students, and then we had researchers. And one of the main questions that we asked from them was, first of all, their own experience in citizen science projects. And the other one was how they see library in their, like, do they see what could be the reasons why libraries are not involved, and how could libraries be involved in there? So we found, I'll give a really quick primary results. So we found some of the barriers and we found some of the enablers. So as we already knew, we all have a little bit lack of knowledge in the citizen science projects in general, and also in general how to find the projects, like how to come up with a project, and also if there are projects out there, how to find this project. Like there is no good database where you can just search for the good citizen science projects and how to get involved. And then basic skills like how to set up this type of project, you know, how to communicate this thing, and you know, what are the aspects of different phases of these types of projects. Lack of ideas, basically. So what are the libraries can do to get the citizen science citizens involved, and also what came out from the students and also researchers roundtables, where they actually have very little knowledge of what libraries are doing. You know, so they know the basics what libraries are doing, but that libraries have various activities that, you know, could qualify them to be part of citizen science projects. So these are the ones that we found out as a barriers for, you know, that are not helping us at the moment. The good thing about enablers was that, as I also mentioned before, we have been involved in various aspects. So we have different experience how we could potentially develop our skills and knowledge base into the citizen science projects. We have a really good network within our countries, within Baltic states, and also within, in the wider library communities. And what people also brought out that how they see libraries is as a bridge or a central point through which, citizens can meet the universities, and, researchers and students, they all could come through library, and this could be this common ground or the central point, meeting point, let's put it that way, to have that. And also we have various experience as trainers when it comes to information search and literacy. So this is the experience that we have that we can also use as trainers. And that was also mentioned in the roundtables, that they see libraries potentially as trainers. So what we are hoping by the end of the project, that we have the skills and the knowledge how to run and initiate citizen science projects, and that we have a clear idea what is the role of the library in the citizen science. Is it the bridge? Is it the link? Is it the partner? So what is exactly where the library could fit in there? We're hoping that through this project we have a much stronger collaboration between libraries, both between academic and public libraries, but also the library community in general and the universities. So if there is a citizen science project run in the university or by researchers, they see as a library a potential either the bridge, linking point, or the partner. And since one of our goals is to prepare our own materials, learn ourselves, and then teach others. So hoping that by the end of this project, we have a good, more experience in establishing and developing different training materials and how to train trainers, because this is what we are learning now among the 7 partners. We want to give to other librarians and other people who would be interested in this materials that we are producing. Also create an institutional change, not just in a way that, well, basically to have a citizen science as part of either curriculum or as a normal activity in the university. Also, as David was mentioning, this is kind of something that ENLIGHT is trying to do that too. And also through that, maybe for the universities or institutions to see that the library could have a role in the citizen science project. One of the big things that by the end of the project, we'll have a toolkit for librarians. So this is something really practical that other librarians and libraries can use later on if they are interested or just starting out. And of course, we're hoping to have the ideas and the courage to actually take on the citizen science projects. And I also added a slide, which is not in the slides that I sent, but so you can use either slide that you want. We have an event, our first event, that we are introducing this our project and what are our goals, and also the more in details the results of our first barriers and enablers research that I just briefly mentioned here. So if you're interested, it's on the May 26th, and you can find a registration link and more information on our website. And keep in mind the time is in Estonia or the Baltic states time. So in Central Europe, it's a different time zone. But that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your speak. That was very interesting. And maybe there is some question in the audience. And in waiting for the question.
I can ask one, maybe.
Yes, please.
If I can.
Yeah.
I know the University of Tartu is part also of the ENLIGHT project, and you mentioned the INOS outputs. Thank you, and the fact that you took into account the results. My question would be, how do you deal with all these projects to integrate the outputs of all these different projects? I mean, within your institution, to disseminate it, and to make links between them, because I can see we'll have connection, and I know that you have like this special position. We used to talk a lot about libraries and the fact that they are at the center of everything. I think like a catalyst to take what Giovanni Schiuma called to be a catalyst. So yes, my question would be how you do that actually.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. Well, one way how we deal with all the outputs that we have for the project, we are involved in very many. We are involved in LIGHT. I'm also co-lead of the work package 7, which is dealing with the open science in ENLIGHT RISE. So one of the things is like we are trying to be present in different projects. So that way we have the knowledge on what's going on in the university and what is university involved. And also through that, by being involved, our university has taken a stand that a lot of open science knowledge and expertise is in the library. So we have finally reached the point where when there is a open science involvement, they think about library. So they include us as a partner in different projects. And through that, we are actually involved and we know what's happening in the university. It's always hard because universities, institutes, they act as a separate, parts. So there may be things going on that we have no idea, but through being involved and making these links inside our own institution, this is the way we kind of can disseminate in the broader project. So when we do events, we talk about ENLIGHT RISE, we talk about EOS Nordic, we talk about LibOCS, so we can just combine everything what is going on, and this way try to disseminate what the university is doing in general. I don't know if that's a good answer, but the good thing in Estonia is like we are really small, so we can do anything, here, so everybody basically.
You are agile.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will keep some other questions maybe for the end. So thank you again. And we will now listen to Giannis Tsakonas, who works as director in the Library and Information Center, University of Patras in Greece. He also serves on LIBER's executive board as head of the Innovative Scholarly Communication Steering Committee and on the board of directors of Hellenic Academic Libraries Link. So Giannis' lecture is about the project TOCE. Yes, I think I have a tweet. SE, an Erasmus Plus project that is focused on the importance of giving voice to some academic actors who have been addressing the question of sustainability and innovation for a long time as librarians. So please, Giannis.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel and to represent this newly started project like the rest that initiated a couple of months ago at the start of the year. So we are named CEOS CE, and we are focusing on the Southeastern Europe, similar to let's say the sibling project of LibOCS in Baltics. And we are looking how open science can be enhanced by the citizens' participation in the region. So an overview of the partners. We are mainly partners from the Southeastern Europe, like the University of Torino, University of Patras, my university, then the Belgrade University in Serbia, the National and University Library in Zagreb, in Croatia, the University of Library Studies and Information Technology in Bulgaria, and the University of Cyprus. And then we have the University Library of Southern Denmark in Denmark. And to my dismay, I see that we have I have omitted naming LIBER, which is the Association of European Research Libraries, and it's the key node in our network, because all of us, we are LIBER partners, LIBER members, and what is connecting us is our membership with LIBER. Of course, we have shared experience with several other libraries, like we, University of Patras with Cyprus and with Belgrade, but what unites every one of us is LIBER, and I should apologize to Andrei and Rosie and Oliver and the rest of the LIBER team. And the duration is 3 years from the start of this one till the end of 2020. Now, the aim is to raise the awareness and mainstream good practices in our countries. We have acknowledged that, I think that it has been acknowledged in previous presentations, that the level of knowledge and awareness about citizen science in our region is quite low. We don't have still the high culture for performing and embedding citizen science activities, but we are very eager to do so. And we would like to do that and to monitor the performance and the processes when we implement open science or citizen science activities, to be able to document all those stages and all those indicators, and to publicly share, the best practices in a fair way, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is very vital, because if we are talking about open science, then we should practice open science. And open science is very vital for LIBER and consequently for all of its members. Of course, when we are talking about citizen science projects, we need to engage non-experts groups from the public, and to find other relevant organizations in the public sphere that we can join forces together. And at the end, the main aim is to transfer knowledge from countries that are more advanced in this field, and to empower the academic and research libraries in the southern eastern European countries to develop further. We know that this cannot be done without working on the staff, without the key actors that are going to perform those citizen science activities. And we know that it's necessary to upskill our staff when it comes to citizen science and how it links to open science. So here we are talking about innovation, and we always have in our minds that libraries innovate. They are always staying relevant to the challenges, because libraries is all about humans. And when humans progress, and when humans express different needs, and when humans set other kinds of visions, when the whole society innovates, then libraries innovate too. So innovation is part of the library identity. That's why if you search for the in the literature, you will see every now and then different topics emerging, and those topics are being exercised in the library sector, regardless, of the types of the libraries: public libraries, academic libraries, special libraries, whatever. So we need to innovate. We want to innovate, and we do so by transferring knowledge, as I told, from more advanced countries to the countries of our region. And we take the best practices of course, we examine them, we adapt them to the cultural setting of each country, and of course to the capabilities of every library. But by transferring knowledge, we are building the capacity of our staff on the matters of citizen science. And at the same time, we are understanding, when it comes to the citizen science, how it is to think, and see outside of your box. I mean, now we are performing the first 2 work packages, and now we are like LibOCS. We are looking at the role of public libraries. So we need to connect with public libraries if we didn't have any connections, because in many countries there are connections, but not connections on this topic of engaging citizens. We need to understand the connections. We need to set up collaborations, and to find this vital space for mutual benefits. Then, of course, when you are understanding the connections, when you are building the capacity, when you are doing all these things, you need to do that in a very consistent framework that actually fosters effectiveness. It has to be effective. We want this to stay. We want this to have an impact, not just within the range of within the span of the project, but further than this. So we need to set up also a framework that re-invites us to be to host new activities, and of course to host effective activities. Then we cooperate with other institutions to maximize effects during the next couple of months. I mean, this month and in June, our members, our partners, are organizing events together with public libraries. In fact, we have already 2 delivered in Sofia and in Zagreb. Our event is in a couple of days later, and we are trying to work together with the public libraries, because, as Liisi said, public libraries are closer to the citizens, to the general public. We are closer to the researchers. We are trying to see how this horizontal infrastructure can connect otherwise isolated communities. So what can link researchers and libraries and citizens are libraries, because we have another frequency to communicate and bring them together. Of course, we want to collect and sustain and provide access to information and data. This is something that libraries are doing well. This is something that in the first results of a survey that we performed a couple of weeks ago, we saw that libraries have the infrastructures, have the expertise to gather all this information that is produced by citizen science activities. And of course, our members said in this survey that libraries are eager on helping, on instructing, on engaging with the research communities, if we are talking about research libraries, and they can help on communication. At the same time, they said that, okay, we have some problems, we have some challenges. One of them is, of course, the lack of funding or the lack of resources. I mean, the expertise, as we said before, the capacity of the staff. This is a barrier that the members understand. And that's why we need to work on this. And of course, one way of sustaining, moving, to the sustainability stages is how we can educate the new professionals, not just, the professionals that are now working in the library sector, but also the new professionals. That's why we have a work package to see how citizen science is embedded in the curricula of library information science departments across the regions. And at the end, of course, everything that we have performed, everything that we have, let's say, that we as research libraries are delivering, and we hope that it's going to be flavored by citizen science, they have to connect to European infrastructure so that it can be reflected. I mean, our repositories should have, this when hosting information about citizens science projects should be connected to European infrastructures like EOS. And that's why we see that we gradually move from innovation to sustainability. And as at least personally think, at some point innovation starts, losing its bright light, its bright sign, and it's replaced by something, more solid, which is, let's say, the robustness of sustainability. And libraries are very good at sustaining services, infrastructures, and of course, content. This in a nutshell, because we are less than 6 months running this project. But despite, this lack of culture and this lack of knowledge, I can see that all of the partners in the region are very enthusiastic about, working on the topic. We don't have yet a formal website, but we have an account on Twitter and an account on Facebook. Until we have the website, you can follow the links, those accounts, and be informed for the developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giannis. So we are going to see if there is some questions in the audience. I think there is a comment from Katarina Zhu, who said she liked a lot the perspective of libraries as a sustainability catalyst, and I think it's true. So maybe there is some other questions. If not, I have one. You were talking about projects with a public library for example, in Zagreb. What kind of project is that? Could you describe?
We have the first joint activities between research libraries and public libraries, and there it's like testing the waters, how two different libraries can work together in order to deliver citizen science activities. In Bulgaria, the workshop that our partner there hosted was about copyright and how citizens can help libraries with copyright, whereas in Zagreb it was about bees and the life of bees, and how research libraries and public libraries can help scientists regarding the ecosystem of bees. And of course, we know that bees is very vital for our environment. Our own activity in 10 days is about the protection of the dark skies, and how we citizens and young students can help the citizens to combat light pollution, which is not just about astronomical observation, but it's also, something that is bad also for the environment, the wildlife, and so on. So we are building those activities, and we are trying to see how the research library and the public library are going to cooperate, whether we did that right. I mean, we are asking the participants if we did the activity well, if they had any remarks, any observations about that, if they learned things, if we were effective, actually. And at the same time, when we are asking ourselves, the public and the research library, we are trying to see what we can do better next time, how we can organize other activities together, again, much more effective. As I told, we are testing the waters. We are trying to see whether we can collaborate and how we can collaborate better.
Thank you very much. So thanks to the four of you for this presentation. And I would like to ask to each of you now to react on one point of your choice about the other lecture. So who would like to comment and about what, and who would like to begin? Liisi, yes, please.
Yes, I wrote down, I wanted to reflect on what Alexandra said when we started the project about the terminology. So that was one of the issues that we kind of faced really quickly when we started the project. The understanding of the citizen science itself is in totally different among ourselves, even, not to mention how people see it from outside the library. So that was basically the issue that I don't think we have solved it so far, like where the involvement ends and where the citizen science ends, because and I think it also comes down to the linguistics, that different languages have different words for these things, and if you translate it in your own language, it has a totally different meaning. Estonia is very well known for this public cleaning projects that we have. Let's do it, or let's go and do it. So it started years ago already, where we just go out and in May we always clean our public spaces, basically from the trash. And then now, I think I don't know if Kai is still here, but Kai, when we had a roundtable discussion here in our library, she was also saying that this is also a citizen science, because that can give you information for whatever kinds of other research that you can make on that one. And then from the library we're saying, hold on, that's not really a science for us. So finding this right terminology, I think it's more of the key than we actually realize. So I want to reflect that one on what Alexandra was saying, that and I understand where you're coming from.
Thank you for these comments. Or maybe someone else, Alexandra, I think. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Liisi. I understand that we have a lot in common. It would be interesting to talk with you. It's also the other way around. There are a lot of grassroots organizations that are doing a lot of things, but they don't know that it's called citizen science. So and that is also the other way around. One thing that I was thinking about, and I want to put the question out to everybody. I see that all of our projects use the word innovation, and I'm really a bit scared by this word. And does it really represent innovation? Because a lot of times I also experience a similar fact, in a way, that innovation actually comes from a lot of times from the grassroots organizations and not just the scientists themselves. So what do you think about that?
So maybe someone wants to answer, or to begin an answer. Giannis?
Yes, I would agree that sometimes, innovation comes from the grassroots. And as I told, libraries is all about humans, and humans are the ones that, have, the spark ideas. okay, and those spark ideas can be on a school of the secondary level. So it doesn't have to be a PhD holder that will deliver the very grand idea. But in the local communities, that's one of the responsibilities, especially for the universities, the academic institutions that want to be linked with the local communities. One of the responsibilities is to build all those conditions that you can grasp these bright ideas. I mean, if we have talent scouters, from the industry, why not, have talent scouters from the academia and the research? So I agree, but and I also agree with you, Alexandra, saying that okay, innovation, it's not a well-defined term. It's very relevant to the context, not just with across the countries, but also within the country. We see, since we are both Greeks, that we have different regions, and of course the regions in every country they are not growing all together. We have regions that are more advanced and regions that are lacking in innovation and in development and in growth. So this is very, very relevant, because what I would call innovation, it can be something very trivial for Estonia, where we know that the digital transformation the digital transformation rate is higher. So this is quite it's not again well defined, but innovation should be also a very simple thing, that we are exiting the current capabilities, we are going move forward, we have something else to think other than the typical and the standard, and that's the baseline, at least as it comes to me.
I will add maybe that it's also very political, the question of the vocabulary and the linguistic. Here in France, there is some discussion between our NGO, like a science shop and a university, about are we talking about participative science or about participative research, and that's not the same. And it makes me think about some research I did about participatory projects in libraries, in the public libraries. And one librarian told me that the municipality had a service named democratic participation, and they changed the name for participative democracy. And that was not the same. So I think it's very political also, and there is this kind of thing to take in account. I don't know if someone else wants to add something. I don't know, David, if you have a comment on something, or yeah.
Yes, thank you. Actually, listening to Alexandra before and Giannis now, I fully agree on the idea that these new concepts sometimes, well, they are very much cultural influences in different places. We also, I think Alexandra just mentioned, and we have found that also some people are doing already things that they didn't know that it's called citizen science, and they, it's kind of their research background that they already have, that it's probably working together with society in defining the research activities and all that. And there is these new labels that sometimes when they apply to you, you are like, okay, so I'm doing that. Yes, I was doing that before. So I think this is important. And also, I think Giannis was mentioning now, and we have faced this problem also on the definition. When we started the survey of the kind of activities we were doing in the consortium, I remember at the very beginning, because I was also new in the team, that I was asking Henk, which is the leader of the working package, that we would need to clarify concepts, because not everybody was understanding the same thing. So actually, in our first delivery, I was checking now, one of the annexes is on vocabulary. So we are still working on that. We are trying to understand what we are doing and trying to put to put a common language on this. So it's probably very new concepts and difficult to address. For example, this idea of innovation, Giannis was saying now, social innovation is a very liquid concept for me, difficult to grasp. So, yeah.
So thank you very much to the both of you. Maybe we will take some questions from the audience, if there is some, or maybe if you have some other comments. Alexandra, Liisi, Giannis, David, do not hesitate. Maybe
it's time to make react to Giovanni's comment,
yeah,
because we use a lot the concept of innovation, and I asked him before to react. So what is an innovative university, as a provocative question? And the fact is that I was thinking to summarize things, but I think the few comments we had from all the 4 panelists are just perfect. So I just will ask Giovanni to Professor Sciuma to react and to tell us a little bit more about innovation and innovative universities.
Thank you. And I mean, it was really interesting to listening all the presentation of the different projects. Well, the definition of innovation, there is of course the economic and management oriented definition of innovation that consider innovation as a change that is put in practice. So there is these 2 dimensions characterizing innovation: change and application. So but providing a cognitive-based interpretation of innovation, I like to define innovation as a new knowledge that has practical implications. And this, I believe, is important because when we consider the generation of knowledge, if the knowledge is not turned into application, into solution, is not an innovation. It's basically elucubration, is a creation of knowledge. So to have an innovation, you need to have an implication, a practical implication. So from this point of view, the role of universities is to work as an engine for knowledge creation and knowledge diffusion, knowledge transfer. And that was the primary mission of the university. But as we know, in the last decades, the role of universities has been revised, recognizing the role of university as a catalyst for a cognitive process in communities. And then we introduced the notion of third mission. So the university have not only the responsibility to train the future managers of society in a general sense. They don't have only the responsibility to generate research, but they also need to contribute to society and work as a catalyst, as a facilitator. Well, when we think about research and innovation, well, research, the primary purpose of research is to generate knowledge. But then, as we know, we have different forms of research. We move from basic research to applied research to industrialization. So when we think about basic research, the primary scope is to advance the knowledge, to move forward the frontier of the knowledge. And it is not necessarily the application of that knowledge to solve specific problems, but is more nurtured by the curiosity and the intuition of a researcher. But again, in the last decades, there has been more and more pressure for universities to prove the value for money, and then also to contribute to changes, to innovation. And it is there where we started to see the link between knowledge generation, research, and application of this research to solve societal, economic, or production problems. But indeed, well, the important link is that we have innovation when knowledge is applied and produce a change, which doesn't mean the knowledge has to be new. Doesn't mean the knowledge has to be original. So I want to make clear this. So if we think about, as an example, I'm not a librarian, so I'm not an expert, but if a library in a specific town is applying new method, is opening up and applying new method that is part of their pedagogical, or I don't know, a method of working, and introduce new method of engaging the society, even if this is not new knowledge in the sense that maybe it's a practice that has been already implemented elsewhere, but the fact that it's introducing a change in the behavior of the society is producing an innovation. So it is important to recognize that in order to have an innovation, we don't need to have necessarily a new knowledge. So there is a kind of discrepancy between research, which the first proposal is to generate something new, advance the knowledge, move forward the frontier of knowledge, from innovation, which means basically to apply knowledge in order to generate positive change. Well, regarding the different notion that we discussed, I mean, I have a concern. One of the characteristics of this European project that we use a lot of buzzwords. We tend to create new words because that seems to make the project more appealing, more interesting, and this sometimes lead us to lose the focus of what we really want to go. And I think a common denominator of all the projects that we have been discussing today during this session, this roundtable, I think that a couple of things I would like to pick up is the critical dimension, the critical component is that we want to facilitate the creation of knowledge, the transfer and diffusion of knowledge in order to support the wealth generation in different forms, in different ways. And in all the projects, we have been talking about cooperation, co-creation, building capacity. So what I believe is an important dimension to recognize is that one of the, I mean, there are two dimensions I want to point out. One is what Alexandra was mentioning as a terminology. In fact, in many cases, the key problem is the language that we use. The language which also work as a bridge, as Liisi was saying, in terms of role of library. So I think that a critical component that I would like to invite all the colleagues to think about in their project is how, in order to make successful this project and to create a successful link with the society, with the citizen, is we need to realize that the language that we use is different in the society or in different, even from different, in different research fields. And this brings, this creates barrier for understanding. So it is very important for the success of all this project to think in terms of knowledge translators, how we translate knowledge from one component to another. And that is a critical component when we talk about knowledge transfer. Every time we try to transfer knowledge, we make an effort to somehow codify the stuff we have in our brain in a communication means that can be reachable by someone else that has to interpret this dimension and to, integrate in his own mind. And we need to understand that in this communication, we can get lost in the space. So understanding how we facilitate this process is very important. So language, understanding the language, and in particular to look for universal language, which can support easily the transfer of knowledge. And from point of view of universal language, I think, and this is part of what I've been passionate about in the last few years, I think arts is the best environment, because arts is intuitive. My kids drove, my kids are little artists, and this is the most intuitive way of communicating. So arts is, let me say, is what can be the bridge. So this in terms of method, because I think in many of the tool projects that you have been talking about, there is an attempt to create the toolbox. And I think in this toolbox, you need to look for tools that then at the end of the day help to translate the knowledge, create links, and create conversation. The other, well, basically, this is so the terminology issue with the importance of knowledge translation. And basically, this is the key concept I would like to provide, because then there are other dimensions, but I don't want to get lost in the details. But what I would like to point out is really these two components. We need to focus on, in order to make, when we, and this is the key point of open knowledge, open science, the knowledge becomes open when it becomes accessible. And accessibility is related to how we frame the right language. And this is one of the key problems for researchers from the university, that they've been perceived as a closed system with their own language, difficult to understand. And sometimes we have trouble even between academics to understand what they are talking about. Because we talk about different language, we have our own jargon. And I think we need to find ways to build this bridge. And this is where I believe in all the projects that we discuss, it would be interesting to explore the role of what I call aesthetic tools, aesthetic technology, basically the use of arts. So that I think is the main reflection I would like to share with you without going in the details of the different projects that are all very, very inspiring and interesting, and I'm sure they will produce a useful impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hélène?
Thank you for that. Brilliant. Yes, Alexandra wants to react, so please. You're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Professor Giovanni. It was really inspiring what you said. And in my experience also, arts is this creative space that can engage people. But I wanted to mention that I have had a communication workshop that I ran in different countries, where I don't allow people that come from the universities to use their title as their way of going into the workshop and producing an idea, because the workshop was about communication, and that has created a lot of different reactions, as you can understand. The fact that you're not allowed to come in and say, I'm professor blah blah blah, or I'm working at this museum, but you actually come into a workshop just with an idea that you have to pitch for each other, and that takes away a lot of stuff. So I just wanted to mention that as an example.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving this very inspiring thoughts and some tips. I think we have a lot to think about for our project, for the sustainability of the project, and especially it makes me think for the University of Bordeaux. We used to have a art and science program as well, and the question of the language between scientists and artists was at the heart of this program. So thank you to give these inputs. So it's been a long session, so I just will ask Amalia if you're here to conclude as the coordinator of the INOS project for these 2 days. I'm very happy about this last roundtable. And thanks again to all the panelists and to Professor Skuma. I leave you the floor, Amalia, to conclude. Thanks again.
Thank you. And I have to apologize in advance if you will hear some sirens going on. So the 4th of May is when in Copenhagen the sirens are tested and they are very loud. So bear with